Well, good morning, church. It's my joy to share with you today on Streams in the Desert. We have wrapped back around all the way from Psalm 150 back to Psalm 1. And the good news is this gives us plenty of material to discuss however long this pause continues. We are excited to continue to look through the Psalms, and here we are in Psalm 1. I've been enjoying Streams in the Desert, all the different contributors, and boy, it's a joy to just get to share and look at these Psalms together. Psalm 1 really stands as a lobby, if you will, as a welcome into the Psalm. Psalm 1 and 2 put together, they really frame what we're going to encounter in the Psalter, in the collection of the Psalms. They're placed here for good reason. They're a great introduction into the Psalms. And in a sense, Psalm 1, it juxtaposes the wicked and the righteous, and it almost acts as a warning that if you want to know how to read the Psalms, you want to understand this framework, the way of the righteous and the way of the wicked, in the distinction between the two of them. And so we read this very poetic language. We read a really important simile to describe the righteous person. But it begins by saying that blessed is the man who walks not in the counsel of the wicked, nor stands in the way of the sinners, nor sits in the seat of the scoffers. The man is blessed who does not have surrounding him in these increasing relationships those who are wicked, those who are scoffers, those who are sinners, that the influence on him, the influence he's surrounded himself with, if you will, is putting him in a path, in a direction that's not healthy, that's not helpful. But instead, this individual's delight is in the law of the Lord. And he meditates day and night. He thinks, he is focused, he's chewing on the thoughts of God's law, his ways. And that person is blessed. That person is filled with the blessing that comes with being yielded properly to the Lord. In our home, we talk about it just very simply. We say that when I obey, I'm blessed. When I honor God's direction, I'm blessed. I encounter blessing. And of course, contrasted with that, when I disobey, when I rebel, I receive judgment. I receive the punishment. I receive the tension. I experience the friction of living outside of the way that I was created to live, being in right relationship with God. You know, at times we might look at God's law, his directives, and there's some discussion about what the law of the Lord, what was the psalmist thinking about? Was it the Torah? Was it the law of Moses? I think it's best understood in a broad understanding, the law of God, the ways of God. And at times we have an unhealthy relationship. We look at the law of God as prohibiting things that we'd really like to do, or coming along and kind of putting restrictions or boundaries on us about things that really would be fun, we really enjoy. And that was the lie that Adam and Eve fell prey to in the garden. That somehow God's law was designed to prohibit real life, real living. That God didn't have their best interest at heart. And of course, that was a lie. That the thing God was wanting to do was to carve out a place of abundance where they could thrive, where they could really live. And they took the bait. And we see in Christ that he is the second Adam, the one who actually perfectly did what Adam failed to do, and he walked in obedience to the Father in every way. And this psalm encourages us, again, in that proper response to the law of God, that we embrace it. And it uses this simile, talking like that individual who embraces God's law and meditates. He's like a tree planted by streams of water that yields its fruit in its season. Its leaf does not wither. In all that he does, he prospers. That there's a fruitfulness, there's a continued productivity out of that individual in every season. That their circumstances don't dictate the productivity that comes through their life. There's a flourishing and a growth that happens in every season. What a promise. What a joyful thing to recognize that that's what God's ways and God's law does in our lives when we yield to it. But contrasted, the wicked are not so, but are like chaff that the wind drives away. That chaff that has no connection to the soil, to what would produce and bring life, but just blows away. It's unanchored. I think about the promise of Jesus to talking about him being the vine and us the branches, and that if we're properly related to him, then we produce fruit. And if we're not, we can do nothing. We're chaff. If we're not properly tied in obedience to Christ, we don't produce. And what a warning to us today to have the right relationship, the right thought process about God's law. And it goes on to talk about the wicked will not stand, nor sinners. The Lord knows the way of the righteous, but the way of the wicked shall perish. That there's a path that both are on, the righteous and the wicked, and the wicked's way perishes, but God knows the way of the righteous. That there's a walking out of this worldview, of this understanding that happens in life, and that the two paths do not lead to the same place. They do not have the same eventual destination. They're just many names for the same journey, but they're actually different paths that end in a different place. I remember when I was just a younger believer, there was a time when I was on a road. I was taking a walk and I was just praying. There were some big decisions that were kind of looming in my future, and I was praying, God, what do you want me to do about this? And as I recall, there were decisions about college and vocation and decisions like that were on the horizon. And I was asking God, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to do? And I just felt the Lord speak to me and say, Daniel, just walk with me. Just walk with me. And I was literally taking a walk at the time. And it did something to me where I recognized that what God was calling me to do was to walk in communion, to meditate on his ways, to not be so fixated upon specific hurdles, decision hurdles, but to just take in what he would nourish me with day by day and live it out day by day. What a different approach to life and to faith, and to not just see it as, well, I need to know what God wants me to do about this, but to be invited in. Oh, God, you just want me to walk on this path with you day by day to be nourished by your directives. And I think that I often think about Psalm 1 when I think about that lesson that God was speaking to me, that he has invited me into a relationship with him where I would delight in day by day saying, God, what do you have for me? What are your instructions for me today? And that's a good thing. It's not a heavy thing. It's not a burdensome thing. That's a good thing. Church, I hope you're encouraged today by understanding that the law of the Lord really brings prosperity and flourishing to you and to me. We were created to walk in right relationship with the Lord. Let's yield to him today. God bless you.